applause. Can you act a little bit more excited than you were when you won your door prize? Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I know that we didn't have many people today because of the weather. I know that up front they had a lot of people that called because of the weather. So be safe going back home, and remember December 17th is our next event right here, same time. Same bat place, same bat time, same bat channel. So make sure that you come December 17th, and we'll have health screenings, and we'll have music and everything here, and door prizes as well. Hope to see you then.
All right, everybody, welcome in to a Road to the Blue Map. We're going to call it the semifinals edition. Coach Beckett, 7A is in the house, the Hayes in the barn, and 7A coach. We already know who's playing for the 7A state title, and that's going to be Thompson Central Phoenix City. Surprise, surprise. Those two are going to hook up again in 7A. So basically 1 through 6 we're going to talk about tonight. As always, we want to thank Watkins Heating and Cooling for all that they do for high school sports, being the main sponsor on this show. Watkins Heating and Cooling for all of your needs in North Alabama. Please reach out to Brad Watkins and Company for any of your heating and cooling needs in North Alabama. They'll take care of you. Game by game breakdowns by Countertop Creations as well. They're located there in Rainbow City. Please reach out to them for any of your countertop needs. If you have old countertops, you need new countertops, anything you need countertop related, reach out to Countertop Creations. Beckett, before we get started, brother, how you been? You doing good?
Doing really good. Happy to be here, man. Road to the Blue Map. We're getting close.
Getting close, brother. Let me ask you a question. Did you have fun last Sunday at a little get-together we had?
Man, Bo Starkey, he can, people think he just brings it when it comes to high school sports. They think he's just the authority when it comes to high school sports. Pretty impressive shindig he threw. Thankful, lot to be thankful about. But man, great spread. Can't say enough. Really impressive.
Had
really
a little get together. Ate really good. Impressive. I gained a few pounds.
5-star though. 5-star. You put it together.
Good stuff. Beckett, we're going to kick this thing off. And look, I want to kick this thing off. I want to come out of the gate like Seabiscuit on this one.
Seabiscuit.
I want to come out of the gate on something that's a little hometown flavor, so to speak. We're going to talk about the 6A semifinals in the North. We're going to come out of the gate. I'm coming out swinging like that, Beckett. Yeah. We're going to talk about the Oxford Yellow Jackets. They're going to be taking on Parker. And, we know both of these coaches. We know both of these programs. We're actually sitting in the studio here in Oxford, Alabama. And look, before we get into these numbers breakdown, just want to rewind the clock a little bit. When Sam Adams took over at Oxford High School, Keith Etheridge ended up leaving, taking the Auburn job. Sam gets the job. They graduate 36 unbelievable seniors that year. Well, that's bad enough. But then they had 13 kids. I believe it's 12 or 13 kids. I know it's double digits for sure. Transfer out that were underclassmen that would have been a part of this program, this foundation that Sam's built over there. So when you see things like that happen, Sam didn't make one excuse. That first year, losing 36 seniors and 13 underclassmen, he goes and wins the region. So from that moment to here, where we're sitting on the eve of the semifinals here, where this man has a shot to go over into play for a state championship, incredible job. So before we dive into these numbers, Beckett, talk about just how hard that is to get kids who did stay. Those who stay, you remember was it Bo Schembechler or Woody Hayes? One of them said, "Those who stay will be champions." To see the kids who did fight through that, and didn't take the high road and stayed there and stuck with Coach Adams in the early days, how important that was to what we see right here on the eve of a semifinal game.
Met Bo Schembechler one time.
Did you really?
Couldn't get words out. I was such a, knowing so much about Ohio State and Michigan. But, let's look at Oxford. Oxford is, a place of excellence. You talk about a place with Coach Burgess. You talk about John Gross, went on to Jack State as a head coach. You talk about Coach Niblett, who won all the titles. It doesn't get any better. The best of the best right there. And then you follow Keith Etheridge. What's he won? 4 or 5 state titles.
Keith's got 6, I think.
6, okay, and we're talking about a place when the AHSAA looks for a director, and all these schools around the state, they go to Oxford High School and take the principal to be the director of the association. So
Then they take 2 others and admins to go with them.
That's right, and we're talking about a place that puts people in all over the SEC. They put people in the league. We're talking about excellence here, all right. And then a situation he inherited that was a tough situation, came in, and there's a lot of people would have shied away from that just because it's big shoes to fill. But not only did Sam Adams step in and embrace the challenge, he had a vision for the program, had a vision for the facilities. He wanted to continue to grow. And, this is a pretty good football team right now.
Really good.
It's a pretty good that he turned around and pieced it together, because no different than the NCAA. You can sit there and gripe about the landscape, or you can turn around and say, nope, I'm putting a roster together, and we're gonna field a pretty good football team here at Oxford. And he put the best of the best players and staff, and man, I'm impressed. And they beat some people this year. Probably were a little more talented than them.
Yeah.
And so they're a well-coached team.
Yeah, what he's done is tremendous. And I honestly think that first team that he stuck it out, won that region, is a big reason we're seeing them sitting here in that semifinal, because those were the bricks, the foundation of what we're seeing here now. Now, when you get into the numbers of this breakdown, now let's talk about Frank Warren first for a second. When he got to Parker was nothing to what we see now. Parker, and they've moved up in classification. But those who remember, was it 3 years ago, they were over here in the playoffs and beat Alexandria. I believe it was 3 years ago. So they were 5A. Now they're in 6A. They're always flirting around those 5A, 6A numbers. But Frank Warren, he was a tremendous running back himself in college, and really has done a lot of good things in the community.
Looks like
over
he
there
could
at
play
Parker.
now.
Yeah, he's put
Looks like he
together.
could go ahead.
Frank is a dude now. But to see what he's done at Parker and put out the talent he's got there, they have the guys we're going to talk about in just a second. But when you start diving into these numbers this year, this is pretty interesting. Check this out, Beckett. Oxford is 13-0 on the season, And last week, kudos to Fort Payne, they played their guts out, ended up losing by 2 points. But Oxford came through, this gauntlet of a schedule they have, including, Clay Chalkville. They've played Oxford. They played Central Carrollton. They played, looking on here, they beat Helena. They beat Hartselle. They beat Buckhorn. They beat Mountain Brook. Anybody that stepped up, they beat them all. You flip that thing over to Parker, and Parker has 1 loss on the season, and it was to Carrollton, Georgia. And they ended up getting, that was on national TV. It was 48-26. They were very competitive in the game. But outside of that, they've handled business, all season.
And for those that don't know, Carrollton, Georgia's got the #1 quarterback in the nation.
And they are loaded with talent around him as well. But when you dive into these numbers specifically, check this out. Oxford's averaging 35.7 points per game. They're allowing 14.8 points per game. 6-0 in region play, 7-0 at home, 6-0 on the road. Now, look at Parker. They are averaging 36.3 points per game, very similar. They're allowing 9.8 points per game, which is tremendous considering their schedule. They're 6-0 in region play. They're 6-0 in on the home field, and they're 6-1 on home field. That only loss coming to a Georgia team, and they're 6-0 on the road. Now, opponents' records. You want to see how close this is? Oxford's opponents' records: 73-60. Parker's opponent's record, 72-64. So when you start looking through these numbers, you get a tight game like this. It's going to go either way. It's going to come down to players and execution I want to talk about this young man. We've talked about him all year. We're going to continue to talk about him. Multi-time helmet sticker award winner Mason Mims. On the season, Coach Beckett, this young man's 240 out of 336, 3,315 yards, 37 touchdowns. But what wins football games is not turning it over. He's only allowed 4 interceptions all year. That's huge in a game like this. To me, the key to this game is, can Oxford block Parker up front? Can they block Parker up front? Jordan Crawford is a guy that we've watched his career. We featured him on Average Joe's years ago. He's got 17 tackles for a loss, 6'3", 290. When he's dressed out, he probably weighs about 310. He's a huge guy if you've ever seen him. He's number 0 for you Oxford fans. That's the guy. He's a 4-star going to Auburn. You want to keep an eye on him. He's going to draw a double team every single snap, in my opinion. So Oxford's got to run the ball. And who runs the ball for Oxford? Caleb Wynn. He's got 184 carries on the year for 1,133 yards. He's averaging 6.2 yards per touch with 21 touchdowns. So the reason that's important, you cannot let this talented Parker front four tee off. You got to keep them honest, so you got to run the ball. And when Oxford is throwing the ball and it's in the air, Jalen Taylor has been phenomenal for them all year. He's got 87 catches for 1,356 yards. He's averaging 15.6 yards per catch. He's got 14 touchdowns on the year. To me, the X factor in this game is Nick Richardson. In these big games, Nick Richardson seems to step up. He's played out of his mind in some big games this year. He's got 53 receptions on the year, 822 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He is an X factor in this game. You flip that thing over and talk about Parker. Who are they going to counter with in their secondary? Naeem Alford is that guy. And if you've seen him play, when we seen him on ESPN this year, what do you have? 2 to 3 touchdowns? 1 defensively, I think 2 offensively. But he's 6'2", 190. He's number 11 player in the nation. He's the number 2 cornerback in the nation. He's the number 1 player in Alabama. Been an Ohio State commit his entire recruitment. Up until last week, I think he flipped to Auburn after they rushed the field, which I know the Auburn fans have got to be happy about that. He's the epitome of big-time players making big-time plays in big-time games, in my opinion. So he's a guy that Oxford fans are obviously going to keep an eye on. Mason Mims is going to have him circled. Where is he at on every snap? They move him around. They'll put him on offense. Not really like a Travis Hunter type player, but a solid playmaker offensively. As solid as you're going to get in the nation defensively, and a number 11 overall player in the nation, so he's a 5-star, so you definitely going to have to circle him. Parker's an 11-point favorite in this game, Beckett. When you look at that, that's got to be all over plastered in Oxford's locker room, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. You would hope that they're hungry, and because they've been doubted off and on this season, and they keep answering the bell. You took me, I guess, spring before last. We go to Parker, and just to see that array of talent and players and coaching staff, and got to hear those guys speak during the off season. Talked a lot of defense at a coaches clinic, and they put a sound plan. They let their defensive linemen. Now they're not covering people up. They're going to eat. They're going to get in gaps and get upfield, and their defensive line will make plays as well. You're not going to throw a lot of balls over the top of them. Like you said, you got a guy at corner that's going to play on Sundays. If he stays healthy, he plays on Sundays, which, if you're out looking for a high school football game and you want to see an array of talent, you're going to see a quarterback for Oxford that's going to play on Saturdays, and then we'll see what happens from there. He can spin it, and then you'll see some guys for Parker that will play Saturdays and 1 or 2 that are on Sundays. So great matchup, interesting matchup for sure. And let's see how Oxford dissects. Man, they find stuff. They do a great job of finding stuff, wrinkles every week.
Beckett, kick it to you for your first game.
All right, let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about 1A. I want to go 1A South. I want to talk a little bit about Elba, Maplesville. Got a lot of history here. Coming in. Elba totally just destroyed Georgiana 62-20 last week. Maplesville's coming off a 42-7 win over Mill Reed. Maplesville kind of went away a little bit after. Now you're talking about one of the 5 most tradition-rich, 5-10. We'll say they're top 10 tradition-rich schools with a lot of titles. They've got two common opponents, Florala and Verbena, both they handled. Just looking at the numbers, Elba's, scoring 62 and 77 and, 57, 68, 78, 50. Amazing how many points that they have put up this season. So, 11-2, both teams. Now, what you've got to understand when you get into 1A powerhouses like this, they have to play. They're playing 3, they're playing 4As. Elba, though, what jumps out, we've really dissected the numbers this year. What jumps out, Elba is scoring 54 points a game, all right, and giving up 28.8. Now, Maplesville's only giving up 14.7, all right. So, Maplesville is at home where they're 6-1, where they've won a lot of years, and you just got to realize 21 consecutive seasons they've gone to the playoffs and all these state titles. You just don't walk in. You don't walk into Red Devil Stadium and it's just not they're not a pushover. That is one tradition-rich, high-scoring offenses. Elba won the last time. So can Maplesville climb back into this upper echelon that they basically they belong, and they've just year after year won these games. But these two hadn't met much because different classifications.
What do you think the key to the game is? I think, to me personally, Elba scores a lot, but man, they give up a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, when they...
Well, and then it comes into style of play. Are we going to get into one of these ruckus, like you watch college football, these West Coast late night games where it is just score after
Chaos.
score after score after score, and you're waiting on somebody to put the ball on the ground. You're waiting on penalties or who has the ball last, that kind of thing. I don't think Maplesville wants to get in that. I don't think that's their world. I do think Elba wants it to go as sideways as it can. They want to track meet. So if you're Maplesville, you got to get some stops. You got to get them off the field. And now, when somebody has scored that much, and the first time they have a quarter, I'm just telling you, kids are kids, and they score 0, or they score 7, or they score 14 and a half, man, they're coming in at halftime and they're going, what's going on? And everybody's pointing you, and as a coach, you're putting that fire out because they're used to so much success. So if you're Maplesville, you got to get them off the field.
Yeah.
You've got to get stops.
And it don't matter if he carries it or not. Every single play, somebody needs to make contact with Alvin Henderson.
Yeah.
You got to hit him, got to hit him, got to hit him. You got to make him earn every single yard. He's going to get yards and he's going to score. But he's going to have to, you got to try to derail that. You can't let him get going downhill or that thing could get over quick. That's the thing when you're playing. But it's also a double-edged sword to me because when you got one guy that you're saddling up, what if he becomes banged up or nicked up or he's not 100%? What happens then?
Yep.
That's an important part about that is how are they going to defend him? Nobody's kind of figured that out all year. Maples was only giving up 14 points per game. But, that's pretty solid. But I'm sure, this is another animal right here in this scenario.
Well, and it's somewhat similar. I'll use an analogy, a basketball analogy. But how many times have you seen these teams that come to the regionals or Final Four, and there's one guy. Now, there's not multiple scores to go with them. Well, can you take out one guy? Again, like you said, very few have done it. But when they sell out and say you're Elba, and they all of a sudden they're slowing us down. Is there a plan B?
Yeah, what do we do if plan A is not working, so to speak?
Right. And there again, there's a game to see. If you're statewide, you want to see it. This guy is in the history books for the state. He is one to say that's Saturdays and possibly a Sundays guy. He is a big-time player.
All right, my next game, I'm going to go ahead and break down the 6A South. So this will be who will be facing that Oxford Parker winner in the state championship game at the Super 7 in Birmingham. And surprise, surprise, Saraland's in this game, Mr. Beckett. They've been there multiple times over the last few years. One of the best football games I've ever seen was last year's 6A final against Clay Chalkwell. The year before I was there, it's been the Ryan Williams show both years. He's won Mr. Football back-to-back. He's no longer there, but they got plenty of talent there at Saraland, and we're going to talk about some numbers and some players for them here in just a second that are absolutely incredible. But kudos to Saraland. Ryan Williams goes away, and a lot of people say, well, there goes Saraland, and not the case. You still have KJ Lacey, who it's been, a tremendous player for them, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He's viewed as that. I don't think there's any question about that. And having a phenomenal season. When you lose Ryan Williams off your wide receiving core, that'll tend to make your numbers drop a little bit, but he's still having a phenomenal season. To see what he's done throughout his career has been incredible. But let's talk about Saraland by numbers right here. So looking at their numbers on the season, they're rolling into this game right here. They're 12-0 on the season. They've scored 42.6 points per game, so they're still scoring at a high clip, and they're not giving up much. They're only giving up 11.1 points per game. When you do that, Beckett, you're sitting here at a 30-point differential per game. That's a recipe for success, and it's not like they haven't played people. They played Jackson, who is, I think, on paper, a prohibitive favorite in 4A, North or South right now, if they just played it on paper, which they don't. But in Jackson is loaded with talent. We all know what kind of talent Blunt has. They beat Blunt 59-6. Gulf Shores, who was last year's 5A champion, beat them 31-7. But then you come on down here and they beat Theodore 42-0, beat Chelsea 42-3. McAdory, who's a very good football team, beat them 49-14. And then last week, everybody was like, okay, here's an undefeated Spain Park team. A lot of people thought this is the kryptonite. This is when they're going to get exposed, so to speak, Saraland. That wasn't the case, Beckett. 45-19 in that game last week. That's an undefeated Spain Park team that Vakakis had been rolling all season, But they come out there and Saraland took care of them 45-19. I thought Saraland could win that game. I didn't think they'd win that game like that. Let's talk about some numbers. KJ Lacey on the year, which we talked about earlier. He has completed 156 passes out of 248 attempts. He's got 2,478 yards on the season. 35 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. Again, much like we talked about with Mason Mims had 37 touchdowns to only 4 picks. KJ Lacey has 35 touchdowns to 6 picks. Common denominator in that, both of these guys are in the semifinals for one reason. Low number of interceptions. Neither one of these guys turned the ball over. If you're throwing the ball 248 times and you've only got 6 interceptions, that's a recipe for success. Mason Mims has thrown it 336 times with only 4 picks. Very efficient, both of these guys. Check this guy out. Sante McWilliams, running back there at Saraland. He's carried it 204 times for 1,130 yards and 15 touchdowns. So keep an eye out for him. He's a playmaker for them, and you got to have a consistent running back, much like Caleb Wynn is at Oxford, to keep some of that pressure off the quarterback so they don't tee off on him. This year, with Hollywood Williams departing, look for Carson Gill. He's going to be the guy that KJ Lacey looks to the most. He's got 69 receptions on the year for 1,202 yards. He's averaging 17.4 yards per reception with 20 touchdowns. Pike Road. Let's talk about Pike Road for a minute. Pike Road's coming in at a whole different perception than Saraland. To me, they're one of them teams that's playing with house money right now. And I'm not saying that trying to be funny or nothing, but you got to look at this. They're 10-3 on the year. They started the season out with a loss to Prattville, 41-37. Then they go 0-2. They lose to Enterprise, 24-6. And then they rebound. and then they go on a run. But until they play Opelika and they lose to them 31-20. But since that Opelika game, they've kind of found lightning in the bottle. They scored 54 versus Park Crossing. They scored 35 versus Stanhope Elmore. They beat Russell County, who's having a fantastic year, 46-14. They beat Charles Henderson 50-35. They beat Bessemer City 37-17. They beat St. Paul's, who's always tough, 44-6 in the second round of the playoffs. Last week they beat Hueytown in a dogfight, 11-8. A lot of people didn't think they had a chance versus them. So to me, they're playing with house money, but they're getting it done. No matter how you get it done, you've talked about this, Beckett, it's survive and advance. There's one guy, Mike Jones. No, we're not talking about the Mike Jones. This is a Mike Jones, but he is the Mike Jones for Pike Road, running back. 242 carries on the year, 1,364 yards, 16 touchdowns. He gets it done for them. It's been steady all season for them. Look for him if you're from Saraland and looking to a guy that you got to circle to stop. It's Mike Jones, because as he goes, they go. Beckett, that's all I got on this game. You want to kick in anything? I do got one other thing, though. Check this number out right here, Beckett. This got to be plastered in Pike Road. They're a 16-point dog. When I say you're playing with house money, you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, that's, as you look at them, that's about right. And I just shout out to Pike Road, because they have put a lot of guys on the collegiate level. You've had some coaching change where people have moved up and taken other jobs, and yet that is a very stable, young, but very sound foundation there for them to turn around and be back in the semifinals again. Very impressive. Great scene. Got to go to Saraland a couple years ago. Young Ryan Williams was on that roster, and just they've turned into as Mobile goes, and Mobile is a hotbed for football. Man, they play good football down there, and definitely have to be the favorite, and some of those things have to go right for some upsets to take place. But that is a one-sided big spread. Big spread. 16 points. Big
Beckett,
spread.
what's your next
All right,
game?
let's go 1A North. Wadley. Let's talk a little bit about Wadley. Wadley's had some great tradition. You're talking about a place that's been to the playoffs 30-something straight times. They at one point won 34 games in a row, and one thing though eludes them: they don't have a state championship. They're 1-5 in semifinal games, and they've had some heartbreaking losses, and had some really good teams that were, this team or that team, or lost a close one, man. And the people down there in Randolph County are going, is this the team? Is this finally the time that we turn the corner and we bring a blue map back? Hackleburg comes in 12-1. Wadley comes in 11-0. Wadley is an 18. You talk about a big spread, 18-point favorite. Hackleburg has advanced to the state championship one time, so they've been in semifinals one time ever. As people talk names coming into the season, they talked Wadley, they talked Hackleburg, they talked Georgiana, Sweetwater, Brantley, and they talked Elba. And so these are the guys that are supposed to be here. Vaquez Wilkes for Wadley. Quarterback.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just great, man. He's going to get it done on the ground. Hackleburg, Blaze Vickery, David Delaney, really good skill guys that's gotten them here. They've got a common opponent, and that is Winterboro. Both of them just totally annihilated, blew them out, and which we know that is a really good Winterboro team. So they've met one time ever. Wadley holds a 1-0 lead. All right, so I like looking at inside the numbers. It tells you so much. Hackleburg averages 40.5 points per game. Their defense averages giving up 9.4. All right, they may be a big underdog, but nobody has run up and down the field on them. All right, and their numbers are just as gaudy. Wadley scores, though, 54.3 points per game. Something's got to give this week, and their defense only gives up 14.9. A lot of lopsided wins. And there again, we touched on that a little bit earlier. Are people able You know, can these teams adjust to being in close games after, I mean, you're looking at Wadley 62, 61, 58, 62, 49, 52, 68, 55, 67. Well, now you're playing a team that gives up 9.4 points per game. All right, so what if they get you off the field? Can your kid's psyche handle that? There again, Hackleburg, they've give up 13, 8, 0, 0, 0, 10, 0, 6. Something's got to give, Bo Starkey.
I want to throw something in here. I got 2 X factors in this game. For Wadley, how huge was that Lee Scott Academy win? For them to go play Lee Scott Academy, step out there and play a team like that's a kind of a virtual unknown that's been murdering people all year, to get a 1-point win in that game, how key was that for this playoff run, to say that's a playoff type game? That's the type game you want to play out of region to test yourself, and that's exactly what they did, and they won by 1. Huge. Other X factor, Beckett, just did a little math. In 3 football games, Wadley has scored 190 points in 3 football games. 190 points in 3 football games. You got anything else on this game? Because we're about to go to a break.
No, I think this is, again, if you're in that area, you want to see good high school football, this is it. That's a good game.
We're going to take a quick break and continue our breakdowns when we return.
Come out and check out the Alabama Tractor Difference. We can take care of all your needs of parts, sales, and service for RTVs, zero turns, and tractors and construction equipment. See us here in Lincoln at 620 Speedway Industrial Drive. Or come visit us here in Asheville at 275 6th Avenue, or give us a call at 205-594-7000.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eli Gold, and I want to invite you to tune in to Jack State Live, a look at the campus and athletic department at Jack State, followed by the Coach Rich Rod Show, where we will break down and preview the next football game for the Gamecocks.
I want to live. The leading cause of death of young Americans like me is gun violence, and oftentimes tied to substance misuse. NBA, NFL, NCAA, most of you look like me, and our communities need you now more than ever. Let's make I Want to Live more than just a hashtag. Let's make it a movement. I am a baller against bullets.
Penguins Bar and Grill. Come down for our amazing bar, stocked with everything you could want, and our amazing food, ranging from whole pizzas all the way to oysters. Our food is cooked fresh and brought to you with amazing service. For the best food and drinks, come to Penguins Bar and Grill.
Hello, my name is Bob Couch, and I'm the owner of Couch's Jewelers. We are your destination for engagement rings, wedding bands, and anniversary and birthday gifts. We offer a wide selection of the best value diamond jewelry and engagement rings. We even gift wrap every purchase for free. And if you have some jewelry that is broken, no worries. Expert jewelry service is offered in-house. At Couch's Jewelers, our customer service is unmatched. If you'd like a special jewelry item created just for you, please come to see us.
All right, everybody, welcome back in to Road to the Blue Map. Coach Beckett, did you have a good little break there, man?
I did.
You about ready to dive back into this thing?
Man, isn't it a great time of year?
It's an unbelievable time of year. So let's dive back into this without any more hesitation. We'll talk a little 2A football now. This is a classification, that is very competitive. 2A North is going to be very competitive. 2A South, in all intents and purposes, no shots at nobody. We kind of knew it was going to come down to Highland Home in Reeltown. No disrespect to nobody, but we kind of seen that collision course, so I want to start talking about that game right there. These two have been on the collision course, in my opinion, all season. Highland Home, obviously undefeated on the year. Reeltown is 12-1 on the year, but their only loss is no shame. It was right out of the gate to T.R. Miller, who I'm thoroughly shocked is not playing still in these playoffs. That just goes to show anybody can lose on any given day in the state of Alabama in playoffs. But you'll have the 3A breakdown in a little bit. You can talk a little bit more about that one. But now let's talk about Highland Home on the season. I mean, they've just been incredible. You know, they're 13-0. They're averaging 47.4 points per game. Here's the X factor to me, Beckett. They're only allowing 5.5 points per game, which means even when their backups get in there, they're performing at a high level, which means they have depth. They're coached really well, and they are getting it done on the football field. Now, something that jumped off the page to me, and this may jump off the page to you, or you may not even think it means that much. Their opponent's record this year is 60-78. You flip that thing over to Reeltown, their opponent's record is 77-67. So does that mean they're a little more battle tested? Let's go in the numbers on Reeltown right here. You know, by the way, Coach Matt Johnson, we've been down there to interview him. If you guys have not seen that interview, you can go to Average Joe Sports Talk on YouTube and just type in Matt Johnson, Average Joe Sports Talk. Pull up his interview where he talks about, you know, being from Reeltown, a very faith-based man, really great leader of young men on and off the field. Gets it done on the field, obviously. Definitely gets it done off the field in life. So he's a great, great guy. You need to see his interview if you've never seen it. Matt Johnson, Average Joe Sports Talk on YouTube. But by the numbers this year, they're scoring 41.1 points per game. They're pretty stingy and salty defensively as well, Beckett. They're only giving up 8.1 points per game. So, again, it's one of those situations where something has to give. And when you look at that, what gives? Because these two teams, I don't think they're too fond of each other. It's going to come down to players and execution, as does all games. Is there anything that jumps out at you when you think about this game?
Well, I mean, there again, yet again, when you get sometimes, you know, we've had a couple, maybe it was 3A, where what we thought was going to be the decided north or south, and it happened. 7A, we had some huge second-round games where it was. We've got a couple semifinal games that it went to the semifinals before we decided who was going to, you know, represent. The best are there, and I think this is one of those situations. And again, those numbers, you can look at the numbers and it tells you everything. And you know, it comes down to, are people healthy? Are you, you know, do you have one more trick up your sleeve as a coach? Are players? Are they continuing to be motivated? This is a long period of time. Now, high school football is, when you start getting into 15 weeks, that's a lot of time. You got a fall jamboree. You just have gone through a summer, and now we're getting to the holiday season. It is a long time to keep a young person's attention. Just to be honest, if you got a young person at home, or you are a young person, that's a long time for anybody to stay with something. So when they're that close, it comes into so many little X factors.
Yeah.
And
I've got one of those I'm about to talk about. This game's going to be played at Reeltown. And in these situations at home, Reeltown's 5-2 all time at home in these situations. You know, Reeltown won the state back in 2009. We obviously remember they've made 2 trips to the state championship recently in recent years versus 5 within the last 5 years. Had they not ran into the Fife Red Devils, they would be sitting here with 2 more maps. So this is going to be a very dangerous game for Highland Home. And Highland Home in this situation, I believe, is 0-2 in semifinals on the road. So think about that. That comes into this game too. Beckett, what game do you got for
you know,
us?
and I think too, and as you go there, I think home field advantage when two teams are when evenly.
It's going to be freezing too, by the way.
Yeah, and all right, can kids handle that? I mean, you know,
Let me pull up the kickoff temperature in Reeltown.
You're again, a lot of variables. When you play at home, you're not traveling, you're not getting on the bus, you're eating your pregame meal where you normally eat it, you're sleeping. In some cases, when they're going one end of the state to the other, especially next week when you get to the state championship, you're not in your bed, you're sleeping. In most cases. you're somewhere. So there's so many just variables that go into it.
Be 40 degrees
Yeah, which
next
is,
week in Reeltown, Alabama, during the game.
Which 2 weeks ago it was warm, short sleeve weather.
That's right.
So it's
Still short sleeve weather.
Yeah. Always short sleeve weather from Bo Starkey.
right.
Always. But you know what? It was cooler last week. Bo Starkey, he put on long pants. I don't know.
First time ever.
Yeah, it was. He had to go buy them because he didn't have
own any, Becky.
Didn't own any. But anyway, hey, all right, let's move on. Pretty good matchup here. We're talking about Southside Selma, Houston Academy down there in Dothan, Houston Academy. So Selma's coming off 11 straight wins. They're playing really, really well. You're talking about a team that is averaging 40.4 points per game, giving up 19.2. On the other end, Houston Academy scoring 42.2, giving up 12.8, real even. Houston Academy at home, they'll be at home 6-1, and then away, Selma is 6-1. So they have come up with some wins on the road. Selma's never been in the semifinals. Houston Academy is 1-1, and so they have made it to the finals before. They have common opponent. They have Montgomery Academy, which Southside of Selma beat them 44-34, and Houston Academy lost to them 10-2. Houston Academy, though, is coming off a monster win. T.R. Miller, just to be honest, we don't pick who we think, but I thought T.R. Miller had a chance. I just really thought they were going to win it.
I thought 90% of people who do picking or sports media thought that.
Yeah, I just thought they were the team to beat. Monster 17-14 win last week. So coming off of that, again, when you and they know, kids know how big that win was. Can they turn around and put that kind of performance again to find a way to get in a state championship game?
Can I ask you a coaching question?
Yes.
I know this is the semifinals, but these guys are humans and they're kids. How do you replicate that? How do you not come in with we've already arrived? We beat T.R. Miller. They were penciled in. How do you get these guys? I know it's semifinals, and everybody's going to say, well, it's the semifinals, Bo. But I've seen it time and time again when we're dealing with high school athletes.
Oh, and
after a big win, a letdown.
I think when you're coming off a win, you got to be mean. You got to be as a coach now. You got to be hateful. You're not their friend. I'm talking about we are, because in the playoffs you got to turn around and you got to do this again and again and again and again. And man, last Friday's Ashes. That thing, all we're going to do is learn from it and we're going to move on. Michael Jordan was asked, he had 27 game-winning shots. They said, what was your most important? He said, the next one.
Yeah.
The next game-winning
That's right.
shot. So the next game-winning shot is, and the next game is got to be everything. So you really got to be hateful if you don't feel like you've got their attention. There again, you help your leaders. There again, another X factor. This is where leadership, maturity, older teams, people that, and it's all, coaches can talk to their blue in the face, but if you've got that older leader that says, no, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're focused on this game, nothing outside. And that's sometimes you'll see an extremely talented team and they're not very mature.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to handle, and they don't know how to handle this situation. And there again, we'll see. We'll see if Selma continues. They've been a hot team. Do they continue to improve and get better? And because first of the year, people thought Miller was who we thought. The new guy on the block, Lee Scott Gordo. Most people liked Gordo to have a chance if it wasn't going to be T.R. Miller at Locust Fork because of the top quarterback in what we thought in the state. Sylvania, we thought had a chance as well in the north. Winfield coming out. So, we've got some different guys here.
Yeah.
We've got some guys that
I didn't have Houston Academy coming in the South. I didn't. I'm going to be honest with you.
No.
I ain't trying to be rude. I didn't have Southside Selma
I didn't either.
there either.
I knew they were talented, but I wasn't expecting them to be here. No.
How much? Again, to me, I think in that game breakdown is definitely can the troops get up again? Can the troops get up again? As you said, and it's all in the preparation this week. That's going to be the key to that game. All right, our next game, we're going to talk about 2A North, and this is this one right here is a 2-point line. Tuscaloosa Academy, coming off the big win versus Pisgah last week, is a 2-point favorite over Sulligent. Tuscaloosa Academy on the season is 11-2. You know, their losses coming to Coosa Christian, and who else beat them? Or are they just 12-1? No, they're 11-2. Oh, Sulligent. Sulligent beat them 46-44. That's correct. I forgot about that. That's correct. So these two have met earlier in the season. Sulligent was a 46-44 winner in that game. So you got to think mentally they got the edge because they've already beat this team. But it's very hard to beat a good team twice in a season. You know that, Beckett. You've been in those situations before. So you've got to factor that one in. That's definitely going to be a factor in that one. Now, Sulligent on the season, a little bit different path. They're 9-4 on the season. They have losses to Winfield, which is no shame in that. Greene County beat them 28-6. Vincent beat them 29-6. And then they had a loss to Hamilton 42-28. So in the middle of the season, you're sitting here, they were 2-4 at one point in the season. Before
I like to see those stories where the guys keep going. They rally the troops. They circle the wagons, and they don't, because you see a lot of kids are front runners by nature. People are front runners by nature. When things aren't going good, man, I'm gonna tank it. I'm gonna look ahead. I'm gonna do something else. They didn't do that.
They didn't do that. And I tell you, when you look at what happened after that, when they're sitting there at 2-4, Lamar County come rolling in. They beat them 42-12. They got an off week. All right, we got that win. We're 3-4. If we're going to turn our season around, now's the time. We got 7 games under our belt. Guess who they play out of that off week? Off week coming a perfect time, Tuscaloosa Academy. They play Tuscaloosa Academy. They beat them 46-44. Then they have the confidence after that. They beat Aliceville 28-0. South Lamar 42-14. Played Pleasant Valley, who we're all familiar with around here, beat them 56-22 first round. 38-24 over Southeastern in round 2. And then Winston County last week beat them 38-12. So they're coming in, as we said, as a whole nother path, a la 86 Gadsden High, who was, 5-5 or 0-5 out of the gate?
0-5.
Come back and wins the state. This bunch was 2-4 and sitting here on the eve of coming out of it. But to beat Tuscaloosa Academy again, they're going to have a tall task, and here's why. Preston Lancaster, who we seen live at Coosa Christian that night, these numbers right here, Beckett, will get you recruited. Last week, I was told that Mississippi State arrived in a helicopter right before kickoff. Before Pisgah game, Deidre told me that a helicopter arrived. They flew in to watch Preston Lancaster play. Got to talk to him after the game, things like that. On the season, he's completed 233 of his 323 passes, 3,762 yards passing, 42 touchdowns. How many interceptions do you think he's got? Take a guess.
Oh.
He's through 323 passes.
So I don't know, 7, 8, 9?
3.
3.
That's a recipe for success.
That's pretty good.
My friend. Keno Rigo is his number 1 target. He's got 70 receptions on the year for 1,394 yards, averaging 20 yards a catch, has 11 touchdowns. Ellis Hamilton is also another target of his that we've seen have a few catches in the Coosa game. He's got 84 receptions on the year for 1,311 yards and 8 touchdowns. So those two guys right there, you're going to want to keep an eye on those if you're Sulligent, but Sulligent's already played them, so they've got plenty of film on them. Again, got to keep Preston Lancaster upright, got to keep him in a situation where he can make plays, and Tuscaloosa Academy's not scared of a shootout. That's what they want this game to turn into.
That's 100%. And, you know, you and I both got to see them earlier in the year, and what an impressive, what a nightmare for a defensive coach, though, because you're not taking one guy away. You've just, wow.
You got 2
really
receivers,
good.
really good athletes.
So good.
And
so
then a
very
quarterback who's only threw 3 picks out of 350 passes. Go ahead, Brett.
Yep. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about Piedmont Mars Hill. Piedmont, one of your undefeated teams coming in. Mars Hill's a 6-point favorite, power ranking number 4 coming in here at the end of the season. Piedmont is 6. Jumps out to me. A couple things jump out to me. Clint Smith's 118-39, won everywhere he's been. Made the move over to Piedmont, and he, following the legend Steve Smith, and he's kept it going. He's been in semifinals 3 times, never advanced to the state championship. Big for him.
Jonathan Miller, you mean?
Jonathan Miller, excuse me. Had a chance to, I'm wrong, Scoop.
Yeah.
With a chance to get his first state championship. All right, let's look at the numbers through the season. Really, really impressive as you get into Piedmont and Piedmont receiving. Riley Pinto, obviously, people have talked about him. 94 catches, even that's crazy for.
He's got 94 catches.
94 catches, 612 yards. He averages 17.1 yards per catch. He has 20 touchdowns. Ish Bethel, you pointed that out today. 67 catches, 1,174 yards, 17.5 yards per catch, 16 touchdowns. And then you've got Brody Helmsley with 13 catches. You got Isaiah Young with 11. That's just
spreading it out.
That's a lot of catches. Cole Wilson, he's attempted 260 passes. He's completed 187. That's 72% of his passes. 72% of his passes. 3,077 yards and 37 touchdowns. Those are crazy numbers, and he's thrown 10 interceptions. So that is rushing. Hayes Gunn, like you said, it's not
bruiser.
Yeah, 154 attempts, 740 yards, 4.8 and 17 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per carry and 17 touchdowns. There again. All right, you're talking about coming off of the biggest win, one of the biggest, 3 or 4 biggest wins of anywhere in the playoffs with that win last week. Went into overtime, went down to the last play. Just 2 gladiators going at it. Piedmont got revenge from the game a couple weeks ago and delivered, big-time delivery. All right, talking to Matt Glover today, which is on the staff at Piedmont, he was talking about how big and physical that Mars Hill is, have been for the last several. That's been their same blueprint. Get in the wing tee. Always going to have a really, really good fullback that they'll run a trap, and man, that cat will be gone before you even realize that they're there. Very, very balanced on how they, whether it's the belly, the buck, the trap. It's one of those things where the defensively, everybody's got to be responsible for their position. If you try to play somebody else's responsibility against a wing tee and a really good wing tee like Mars Hill, you're watching somebody run up and down the field. All right, inside the numbers, as you go inside the numbers, Piedmont averages 41.3 points per game, gives up 18 points per game. Mars Hill on the other side, 42.4 and 13.2. Really, really similar. Some of the things, first meeting between the 2 teams, there's one common opponent. They both played Lauderdale County. Piedmont beat them 21-6, and Mars Hill beat them 21-14, which was a pretty good one. Couple things you kind of wonder: is there any carryover from last week's game as far as for Piedmont, because they were in a war, and Mars Hill didn't blow out. And I got to see Winfield a couple weeks ago. Winfield's a solid team. That was a good win for Mars Hill to advance. So. What's your thoughts as far as the Piedmont? You're familiar with them as far as the carryover, and what state of mind they'll be.
I think Jonathan Miller has done an unbelievable job there at Piedmont. Last year he inherited a relatively young team, and then not only does he inherit a relatively young team, they all get in. It's like injury-plagued season for them all of last year. Well, as you can see, when Jonathan Miller has his guys healthy, we're sitting here talking about them on the eve of a Super 7 berth if they beat Mars Hill. No disrespect to Mars Hill, and I'm going to talk about Mars Hill in a second. He's doing a phenomenal job. Jonathan Miller has always been a great offensive-minded coach. Even when he was at Sachs, man, they were putting up points to the truckload. I remember the first time one of our good friends went with me to watch Super 7 or a spring game down there. They were playing Clay Central, and he had Sachs, and they beat him in a half, and they was only playing a half. And one of our good friends, I'll leave nameless right now, was like, whoa. He was like, what in the world? And they were moving the ball at will on Central Clay when he was at Sachs. So it don't surprise me that they're phenomenal. Cole Wilson has come into his own. You know, a lot of people, this is something that nobody talks about, but to me is everything. Cole Wilson steps in for the #1 total yardage player in the state's history, #1 total touchdowns in state history, #1 passing yards in state history quarterback. Doesn't make any excuses. Goes out there, starts with a new coaching staff, and then everybody around him gets hurt. And then he even gets dinged up. But then returns this season and has been every bit the part. So I think Cole Wilson deserves some credit, because without Cole Wilson being the trigger man that he is, we don't see those numbers from Raleigh. We don't see those numbers from Ish. And maybe even Hayes Gunn, because, hey, buddy, if he ain't getting the ball out, they're going to load the box, and then Hayes can't get going. So to me, Cole Wilson deserves a lot of credit, and this offensive line has played phenomenal this year. You know, last week's game, I could tell, I know Coach Miller well enough, I've done his coach's show all year. I could tell he was a little uneasy about, you know, Fife's line, the physicality and all. They did their jobs. You got to give them credit on that. They did their jobs up front on both sides. I mean, it was a war. But again, this is one of those situations, much like we talked about Houston Academy. After such a big win, you got to turn around and do it again, because that leads me into talking about Darrell Higgins and Mars Hill. You know, if you guys haven't seen the interview with Darrell Higgins, go to Average Joe Sports Talk's page, or you can just go to YouTube and put in Darrell Higgins, Average Joe Sports Talk, and our one-on-one with him, which we did out in the snow and at Mars Hill is a phenomenal interview. People don't know this about Darrell Higgins. He won the Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right.
Yeah.
He traveled the country with Butterbean and was his undercard. He was 13-0 as a professional fighter. Never lost.
That's crazy.
He won several Tough Man contests back before UFC was out.
I love it.
He used to rap.
Stop.
He
You
did.
got to stop at some
He
point.
did.
This is
he's one of the most interesting
Butterbean
guys.
rap, Showcase Showdown.
He
This
also
is-
went to college at Last Chance U.
This is awesome.
Yep, East Mississippi. He went to college there. So he has a really good story, and you need to hear it. And he ended up at Mars Hill by a vision that was sent to him. And he talks about that too. He had a vision sent there, and he went and told his wife, "Hey, we're going to Mars Hill," and his sons cried. He's like, "No, Dad, they don't win over there. Like, we don't want no part of that." And it was the Lord talking to him that led him to go to Mars Hill. So he had a vision he talks about, and what led him there. And what you see Mars Hill now and all these other sports, you know, they played for baseball last year. They was in the Final Four last year in basketball, you know. When you see what they've done as a sports program, a lot of that's attributed to Darrell Higgins. You know, and kudos to them for hiring Darrell Higgins and letting him do what he does. But now it's trickled over into all these other sports. So you said it best, they run that wing tee, but they throw out of it a whole lot. So you can't just tee off on these traps and you know, bellies and things that you run out of the wing tee, because they will raise up and throw it on you. So they're a very dangerous team to defend. I look for one of the best football games in the state of Alabama will be the Piedmont-Mars Hill game.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
See how much time we got. We got about 3 minutes there. One other thing about that game, Beckett, both of these teams are used to deep runs. Mm-hmm. Both of these teams are battle tested. You know, how do you get ready for games like this? You go play up. We've seen Piedmont kick the season off playing Cherokee County. Mm-hmm. and winning that football game. We see Morris Hill ending the season playing Scottsboro, who was a region champion in 5A and one of the toughest regions in 5A. On the last second, they lost that game off of missed field goal. So that's how you challenge yourself to get ready for these situations like this. So both of these teams are battle tested. Both of these teams have great players and great coaches. It's going to come down to execution across the board, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, and there again, the 3A North, you know, a lot of times people talk about the South, but 3A North now is taking care of business and held its own and has a chance to go to Birmingham next week to win a title. And you say, well, doesn't everybody? Yeah, everybody does. But sometimes in the past, some classifications run into that speed of South Alabama, and it's just a whole different animal. And but no, now I think 3A North will hold its own with anybody. So
Over the last 15 years, Piedmont has won, what, 5? Right?
Yep.
Or 6?
I don't know. Endless.
Yeah.
Endless.
But I mean, there have always been 3A North.
And when the last one they didn't win, it was a back and forth. They were in it and they held their own.
And then 5 moved up to 3A, won against Catholic.
Yeah, and Morris Hill has bumped up in classification and just didn't miss a beat, and really doing well.
Yeah. So either one of these two teams will have a chance versus the 3A South team, in my opinion, across the board. Guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back for our final breakdowns of the night.
Discover why Hungry Hut Barbecue has been Etowah County's go-to for mouth-watering barbecue for 40 years. If you're not in the mood for barbecue, try our very popular chicken finger plate with fried green tomatoes of our famous fried pickles. And don't forget about our drive-thru. Come down to Hungry Hut's Barbecue today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eli Gold, and I want to invite you to tune in to Jack State Live, a look at the campus and athletic department at Jack State, followed by the Coach Rich Rod Show, where we will break down and preview the next football game for the Gamecocks.
At Southern States Bank, we pride ourselves on being your bank. We're your neighbors and involved in the community. We're the bank featuring the Southern Rewards checking account, a cashback account with no ATM fees. We are on the cutting edge and always have a smiling face to help you out. So come to Southern States Bank, where we are committed to great service and being a great neighbor. Let us be the bank for you and your business.
I'm Alan Parnell, the Parnell Insurance Agency. We've been here in Oxford and Alabama, Tallapoosa, Georgia since 1990. With Auto Owners Insurance, we're able to give customers competitive pricing along with excellent coverages. Parnell Insurance can handle all of your personal, commercial, and life insurance needs. We have a very experienced staff, both personal and commercial. All together, we've got about 125 years experience. Come see what our insurance agency can do for you in Oxford, Alabama, and Tallapoosa, Georgia.
Auto Owners Insurance.
Serving Calhoun County and the state of Alabama since 1994. Locally owned and operated, offering some of the most competitive interest rates in the mortgage industry, along with a wide variety of mortgage products. We are with you throughout the home buying process, offering you service before and after the close. Fast, reliable, local.
And you remember, if you need a home loan, call my daddy.
Watch the screen. All right, everybody, welcome back in to Road to the Blue Map. This will be our final breakdowns of the evening, and I'm going to kick this thing off. In the 5A breakdowns, got to go watch my good friend Juice Johnson last week take on Clay Central. Phenomenal football game, one of the best football games I've seen in a long time. We talked about it during the week, Beckett. That was going to be a violent, a lot of collisions, heavyweight bout between two teams that refused to lose, and that's exactly what we got.
Team speed. Well, wow. Team speed of
Becky,
Catholic.
Talk
wow.
about it.
Wow. You know, And, you know, you talk about two juggernauts. The state champion could have come from that game. I mean, what a wow.
Without question.
Yep.
You know, Clay's, that game could have went either way at some points. Both teams had opportunities to win. Kudos to Juice and his staff for pulling that win out. This week, a lot of people, you know, when the season started, thought, you know, hey, Catholic, they're good. They were good in 3A. Didn't get it done. They move up to 4A. They win their championship last year. They got upset by Andalusia the first year there, a huge upset. Andalusia goes on and wins it. So last year, they make it to the state championship game again, take on Cherokee County, and they win that football game. And Juice gets off the snide, so to speak. And he told us in the post-game press conference, hey, look, this may be my least talented team that we've had as of recent years, but this is the one who won it because they play more as a team. They kind of brought that mantra over into this. Well, competitive balance kicked in, so now they're in 5A, and they were told all offseason they don't belong in 5A, they can't win in 5A. Juice is the type guy that keeps receipts, and he keeps a whole stack of them. And he cashes them in as the season goes along. But you kind of seen these two teams. You had a couple teams in the South for sure, Williamson, Central Clay, a lot of teams that could have derailed what we're about to see, but in the back of a lot of people's minds, they thought that this would be the game that we would end up seeing, and here it is. Now, Catholic is a 9-point favorite in this game, but I went number diving, as I always do, and I'm going to throw some stuff at you, Beckett, and I want to hear your honest, on-air, live opinion on what I'm about to tell you. These two defenses are unbelievable, and when I say unbelievable, I mean unbelievable, and we can prove it by numbers. Check these numbers out. We're going to talk about numbers. Catholic first is averaging 45 points per game. Beckett, they're only giving up 5.9 points per game. I believe last year they gave up 3.8 or something crazy like that. Viger, they're scoring 36.9, might as well say 37 points per game. Beckett, they're giving up 4.8 points per game.
Again, another game, something's got to give.
Something's got to give. Listen to this. Total points surrendered all season. This is with your backups in there. This is when your starters are out at halftime sometimes. They've only given up 62 points all season, Viger has. Catholic has only given up 71 points total all season. Viger has pitched 5 shutouts on the season. Catholic has pitched 6 shutouts on the season. The high given up by Viger in a football game was 14. The high given up by Catholic in a game was 14.
Wow.
Listen to this little tidbit I'm about to throw at you right here, buddy. In these playoffs, in these 2024 playoffs, Viger has outscored their opponents 128-10, ladies and gentlemen. 128-10, okay? Now, that includes wins over Sipsey Valley, Eufaula, and UMS Wright. Now,
and listen, we're talking about, just to be honest, we're talking about what's supposed to be the most talented part of the state.
Guess what? They've got 2 shutouts.
Wow.
And they gave up 10 points total, and that was to UMS Wright and Terry Curtis last week. Catholic, guess how many shutouts they got in the playoffs? 2 shutouts. The high they've given up is 9 in the playoffs, and that was the Central Clay last week in a game we were at. Guess what they've outscored their opponents? 116-9 in these playoffs. Total domination by these two schools. You said it best. Something has to give. What is it that's going to give?
So impressed with Catholic, you know, when Clay Central got inside the 10 and
got inside the 1.
Yeah, and we're going, okay, yeah, now this thing's really it's about to be a ball game. Man, they didn't. You talk about a defense.
Yeah.
It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
It just was not happening. Got inside the 1, wasn't happening.
You would see LaDamian Boyd break out, and you'd just see like a, you know, you see college football and stuff when guys will break out. You'll see one guy go run them down. You'd see 2-3 guys.
Yeah, the closing speed. Wow.
Yeah.
And Central now is known for their speed, but they closed on them.
They closed on them, and it's like instead of giving up the big bruiser linebackers and guys like that, they have a little bit guys maybe a little bit smaller, still violent collisions, not scared of contact, but gets to the ball like a swarm of bees. It's fun to watch them play defense.
I know you're close to Juice. What's his take on the game?
Well, you heard him in the car on the way home when we talked to him. He said, turn the page, that one's over. Time to get to work. He was watching film when he called us. What time was that, 11? When I was on the way home. So he's, it's business as usual. When he's in game mode, he's in game mode. He'll goof off, he'll chat with you, we'll talk a little junk, and he'll tell a joke or two, but you can tell in the back of his mind's working. He's always thinking, he's constantly working, he never stops. He's been on the phone with Teddy Whitmire this week a lot. They've been chatting back and forth, looking at stuff, and throwing ideas off each other. I do know for a fact he contacted some people on Clay's staff to ask what they seen of him, find out some weaknesses, things like that. That's a coach that's always working, never stops. So I think I'm going to be attending that game again this week. So I'm looking forward to a heck of a football game again.
All right, hey, let's talk a little bit about St. Michael's and Jackson. All right, first off, let's throw this out here. Phillip Rivers. Anybody remember Phillip Rivers, the quarterback with out at San Diego? He threw for 63,440 yards, 421 touchdowns from 2004 to 2020. Obviously, he's in the San Diego Charger Hall of Fame. Got a chance to be in the NFL Hall of Fame with those kind of crazy numbers.
Top 20 quarterback ever.
Yeah, he's definitely top 20 quarterback ever.
Top 15 probably.
We're talking. Came from Miss State, went and played at North Carolina State. His father was his head coach in high school. Well, he's come back and he's giving back. He's coaching high school football. He's 29-14, and he went to St. Michael's in Fairhope, 12-1, and he's got a son coming in the season, Gunnar Rivers, 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Uncle Steven, family affair. So the Rivers are in the what a name, Gunnar, for somebody that can sling it all over the ballpark. Gunnar, has there ever been a more appropriate name? Now, as you say, house money, they're definitely playing with house money. They're a 22-point underdog. Been underdog every week, though, if you've noticed the spreads. And most times, the gurus, when they make these predictions in high school, most of them bear on out, and the favorite wins. Something tells me when somebody's thrown for that many yards, he knows a little bit about dissecting defense and looking on the shelf and seeing how many safeties and seeing if they're spinning or seeing if they're seeing a tap, whatever. He knows what he's looking at. So, can he do it one more time? Can he get in a state championship game? Because we know he's won a lot of games in the National Football League. He's won in high school. Let's see. All right, here's what's interesting. They've got common opponents, more common opponents than any other team. They've both played W.S. Neal, Satsuma, Escambia County, Mobile Christian, and Orange Beach. St. Michael's has beaten every one of them and beaten all of them handily, as has Jackson. And there again, you talk about hadn't been in many ball games. Jackson has not, after the Saraland lost the first week, talk about playing the best to be the best. They're playing Saraland. Went on the road there and lost 35-27, and the rest of the way they have just rode 40s and 50s and with you talk about playoffs, beat Bullock County 55-0, beat Bibb County 51-0, beat Tallahassee 41-10, and Tallahassee's pretty good football. Diving into the numbers a little bit, St. Michael's 12-1, averaging 39.2 and giving up 26.2. Those are not. Now that's the first time we're going. We said it last week and earlier in the playoffs. Those are not very good numbers. All right. Where Jackson is averaging 44.7 and only gives up 11.8. Numbers alone, there's why you spread is 22, just because of the points per game. Jackson holds a 4-1 edge in games played. Let's go to semifinals. St. Michael's has never been here, and you're talking about a program that's not even that old. Where Jackson is 2-3 at home in semifinal games and 1-2 on the road. So they've made it to the finals 3 times in the past. In the playoffs overall, this is St. Michael's second, visit ever. This is 37th for Jackson. Again, history doesn't play, but do you think it factors in for the fans, for the players who have seen this year in, year out, and are used to being there?
It's got to, because you know what to expect. They know what to expect. It has to play into that. I'll tell you what else plays into that. Watching these Jackson athletes in person in the Final Four, and a lot of them's on this football team, it is scary to see what they put out there on that Final Four court and end up winning it all. But it's a different type of athlete there at Jackson. Those guys, look at the Saraland score. All right, Duckworth, one of the most phenomenal athletes in the state of Alabama, in my opinion. Jackson is loaded to the gills, and everybody thought last year they were going to walk through the state championship. Now, I personally thought Catholic would beat them if they met last year. I can say that now that the season's over with. But I was in the minority last year because everybody else thought Jackson was going to walk to the state championship last year. So yeah, I think it definitely factors in.
They lose to BT Washington last year, and they lose 20-17.
One of the biggest upsets.
It was a huge upset
ever.
Does that factor in? Are they hungry? Are they saying, "Hey, we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let it happen again. We're going to take that next step."
That's right.
Coach Flournoy done a tremendous job, but he's got to be wanting to take that next step and get a blue trophy.
100%. I agree with that 1,000%. We're going to go ahead and talk about this next one. You got any more tidbits on that one?
No.
All right. Next one, man, you talk about around here, a phenomenal big football game. Semifinal games are big, Beckett, but semifinals against your rival don't get any bigger.
It's huge. When I saw that, I was like, and having coached in that and seen, and when I first got to, we were getting better, and John Gross had come in. But when I first went to Moody, we weren't very good. They were good. They weren't Keith Etheridge good, but they were good, and it was a nasty little rivalry. You're 5 miles apart. Everybody knew everybody. You had some players that had transferred back and forth between the two schools. So how exciting to see the battle of I-20, because I-20 is what separates them.
And what's funny is the 411 boys of Moody are sitting here a 23-point favorite. So if you're Leeds, you're sitting here and you're like, oh, these dudes don't respect us.
We're disrespect. We're the ones that's won the titles through the years.
And then they're also going to say, hey, we're the ones who's been beating these guys as of late.
Mm-hmm.
This season, wasn't the case. Moody took care of business 38 to 22, and they're going to return to the same field at Moody. 23-point favorites. Before I start this breakdown, does that favor Leeds? Because they're going to obviously they're going to take it as disrespect.
Oh, absolutely. And this almost leaves. This is standalone. Forget the. We're all playing for the blue trophy. This is the road to the blue map. But I'm telling you what. It's Leeds Moody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It is take it personal. This is get back for that game, and then we'll think about the blue trophy later on. You just got to realize there is a serious hate there.
Next question: will there be 10,000 people there?
Oh my gosh, there's no way to get within 100 miles of the stadium. And there again.
And I'm not joking when I say 10,000.
Oh yeah. How good is this for high school football?
Yeah.
This kind of game.
This game to me, in my opinion, may have the biggest gate this week.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think so?
Oh, absolutely.
I think this may be the biggest gate this week. Jay Gaines, this is what he was brought to Moody for. He's changed everything from their look, their name, everything. 411 boys on the helmet. People get on board. There's haters everywhere. If there was not haters, then everybody loves you. Then you're probably not winning a lot of football games. So I'm a big fan of Jake Gaines, what he's done, 100%. I know you're a big fan of Jake Gaines, 100%. And anybody, and look, I call it like I see it. 99.9% of these people who hate on Jake Gaines would love to have Jake Gaines as their head coach at their school. That much I can promise you. Let's dive into some numbers right here. Moody in these playoffs, Beckett, has outscored their opponent 132 to 14. They beat a very good Arab team, which we've watched all year, 49 to 7. They turned around and shut Winona out 34-0. And then last week, Ramsey, who's been to the 5A state championship game, won one of them and lost one of them the last 2 years. Dude, they beat them 49-7. Wow. So you talk about peaking at the right time. That's exactly what Moody's doing this time. You know, Moody does have 2 losses. Matter of fact, Moody started this season off 0-2. They lost to Gainesville, Georgia, Josh Niblett and company. And then we were at the game right over here in Oxford when they lost to Oxford in a very close football game, 24-21. But what did those 2 losses do? It prepared you to what we see now. They then went on to get wins versus Jacksonville, versus Helena, versus Center Point, versus Leeds, beat Lincoln 66-3 heading into these playoffs. Then they beat Arab, Winona, and Ramsey. Now, Charlie Johnston for Moody, the quarterback, he's completed 140 passes out of 205. He's got 2,477 yards passing on the year, 29 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. They have a pair of 800-yard receivers on the season. Bravis Cave Jr., 844 yards, 11 touchdowns. Carmen Meadows has 881 yards and 10 touchdowns. Carmen Meadows, excuse me. Pair of 800-yard receivers. Those are the guys that are going to be making plays for them. When you flip this thing over and you talk about Leeds, totally different path. A lot of people didn't think they were going to beat Guntersville. Imagine being Leeds, finishing second in your region, and you're hosting 13-1 Guntersville, who was number 1 in the state majority of the year, then flip down to number 2, Catholic passed them. Yeah. But you get that win, 35-28. Then you take on a Fairview team, I think, that was undefeated. They were undefeated. And you beat them 36-22 in another good football game. And then you take on Coroner and beat them 57-36. So
yeah, when they beat Guntersville, you're sitting there going, that's supposed to be the state champion right here. When they beat Guntersville, you go, wow, okay, these guys are for real.
They're for real.
Yeah.
And again, one guy circled. We've said it all year. I'm going to say it again. Connor Nelson. He's the key to all this. Offensively for them, he's completed 64 passes out of 109, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the year.
Wow.
But then when he tucks it and takes off running, 196 carries, 1,600 yards, and 33 touchdowns. We've said it every time we've broke them down. He's who you got to circle. It's Keith Etheridge's nephew. Absolute dog. Very excited about this football game. Beckett, our last breakdown of the season coming up.
Yeah, hey, you know, West Morgan, first off, West Morgan, when they beat Anniston, and Anniston was on a roll, and Anniston is a really good football team. There's no homer involved there in seeing that. When I saw that score and they beat them 50-20, you start going, wow. Let's start doing a deep dive into West Morgan, and let's see, you know, what's what. Then you look at these numbers, you know, where they scored after their open week. They scored 69 on East Lawrence, 61 on Danville, 52 on Central Florence, 55 on Wilson, 35 on Dessler, which is the best of the best. 45 on Fayette County, 28 on Madison Academy, which was really, really good, and then 50 on Anniston. So, man, they're doing a lot of good things. They're coming in 13-0, 7-0 at home, 6-0 on the road, averaging 45.2 points per game and only giving up 11. It follows the blueprint. These two have met 2 times on the field against Cherokee County. Cherokee County is 2-0 versus them. Cherokee County, deep dive into the numbers, they are averaging 36 points per game and give up 10.9. Now, misnomer there is Cherokee County will put you in a chokehold. They'll just run the football and, you know, grind you out and just wear you down and just doggone take your soul. And so their style is not to where they're trying to put up 60. They're trying to have the ball the entire quarter, and thus far they are able to do it. Again, had the loss early in the season, rival Piedmont. Both of these guys in the semifinals, which uniquely, I think it was 2009, both of them won it, which on the same year, whatever, 10, 15 miles, 20 miles separate the two, really close in proximity. So following that, really good, especially on defense, where they have just not giving up anything. Again, lost their quarterback early in the year. We talked about that throughout. Really proud of my former player Josh Griffith's son, to see him come in. He's been a game manager for him, and there they go. Let's look at and again they have multiple rushers. Tristan Brown last week, 19 carries, 165 yards. Keyshawn Woods, 27 carries, 135 yards. So, between the two, there's 47, 48 carries. And that way they're not, they're not to where it's wearing one player down, where you get that one guy and you get him into 40 carries. And Ben Frampton had 3 catches, 22 yards. Not going to throw the ball, don't have to. Griffith's the game manager, and they pretty well will run that clock and again, just straight up take your so. Cherokee County, again, is the heavy, has been a heavy favorite all year, but West Morgan with those gaudy numbers, 2-point favorite. What do you think about the spread? West Morgan coming to Cherokee County, who has just gone to multiple state championships. There's no Andalusia this time. And West Morgan coming in as 2-point favorite. Does that play into Cherokee counties? Do they feel disrespected? What do you feel?
I don't think you could script it any better for Coach Kelly. For them to be an underdog at home in the semifinals versus a team that they have been beaten regularly as of late in the playoffs in these deep late situations and beating them bad.
Yeah.
I think you could not. Hollywood couldn't script anything better for Coach Kelly. He don't have to say nothing. I know I'm not giving away any secrets because I've done Coach Kelly's show for 2 years now. There's a receipt board in there, like, not giving away anything, just saying they see and hear everything. And when you play Cherokee County, it's one thing. When you play Cherokee County and they're ticked off or mad, it's another thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you this. I'm not saying West Morgan can't win this football game, because obviously they're a favorite right here. But I'm going to tell you this. In order for West Morgan to win this football game, they better be ready to get their nose bloodied. And they better be ready to give it back. Because I'm telling you right now, in order to beat Cherokee County at football, you have got to be willing to get in there and get your nose bloody on both sides of the line of scrimmage, because it's coming. They make you play their style, period. There's no way to avoid it. They put you in a phone booth and they find out what kind of manhood you have. And for them to be a 2-point underdog at home in the semifinals, I ain't even talked to Coach Kelly, but I promise you that he don't have to say nothing. He probably went in there and put a negative and a 2 in chalk on this board, and he probably didn't say another word.
Very impressed with Coach Kelly. And just, you talk about runs an organization. It is an organization top to bottom.
Great admin, too.
Yeah, and there again, Bobby Tittle, it doesn't happen without him. And that's the case for so many of these. If you get, and I can tell you the nightmare other end stories of administrators that are not bought in and don't understand. And high school sports is a wonderful thing. It's a front porch sports period, or front porch for school, rallies a community, gets a player to buy in, self-worth, belong. So hats off to Bobby Tittle and what he's doing. But Jacob Kelly runs just a great top to bottom as far as how they plan their. It's just well structured. It's structured like a college, and really impressive. He's put together a really good staff, and facilities are top notch, and players are bought in and how hard they work. Really impressive group, and a chance. If you're Jacob Kelly, you've just missed twice. A chance to win one.
Tristan Brown company. I can't wait to see him run the football. Can't wait to see him tackle. Ben Mosley, who's been getting recruited a lot. These are guys. And look, I want to rewind the clock for a second. I don't know if you know this or not. This senior group is now the all-time winningest group in Cherokee County history, and that includes the 09 group, that came through and won the state. So These guys have won a lot of football games back. We got about 2 minutes here, and we're going to get some final thoughts. But these guys got a lot of football wins under their belt, man. Talk about this group and how special that is to be the all-time winning senior class.
Which, having been from there's been a lot of winnings. Football schools, there's been a lot of great teams come through there. And it's a testimony where the program is. And there again, I'm gonna go back to Coach Kelly. I'm gonna go back to these. They've had some injuries that they've pushed through. The leadership, the way the thing is structured. You see those kids work out and you say, well, everywhere they work out hard. I'm telling you, it's a little different there compared to some of the others, and just the buy-in of where the community is. And you talk about a Blue Million will be there. There will be a Blue Million at Center, Alabama, at Bobby Joe Johnson Field come Friday night.
We're definitely going to have, I think, 2 photographers there for sure. I know for a fact 1, probably 2 photographers there. So we're going to get coverage there. Final thoughts for me, I think I'm going to be going to Catholic and Viger. I want to see that one up close and personal, just like I seen the Central Clay last week. 2 great coaches, 2 friends of mine, the Piedmont, Mars Hills, another great game that I'm looking forward to finding out what happens in that one. And how do we not talk about Leeds and Moody? Yeah. Rivalry in the semis. Who jumps out for you?
Yeah, and that you stole my thunder there. That's just a beautiful thing. At Leeds and Moody, can Leeds turn around? Can they make it a game? Can Moody get to the first state championship game ever? And they've never been there. You're talking about a place that, a suburbia sprawl took place. They went from little bitty school, small like 2A, and here they are in the big time with a chance to go to Birmingham.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap us up. We got about 20 seconds here. We want to thank Watkins Heating and Cooling for all they do for high school sports. We want to thank Countertop Creations for all they do for high school sports as well. Thank you guys for watching Road to the Blue Map. Be back next week with an early edition for Super 7. Thank you, guys.
I'm Alan Parnell, Parnell Insurance Agency. We've been here in Oxford